when Press On kind of was really getting started, I was kind of beginning a process of going through recovery from some addiction stuff. And, in the anonymous rooms, they talk about how powerful gratitude is. Yeah. That literally gratitude sends endorphins through your body that are similar to the same endorphins that heroin, pornography, all the things that send through that literally can captivate your body. Gratitude sends those same endorphins. You can literally become addicted to gratitude.
On this episode of the Late Night Startup Show, we are speaking with Graham and Jerry of the Press On Paper Company. This is a very interesting company that was kind of born out of the heart of gratitude, and we got into the conversation of gratitude quite a bit. But it's interesting because it's handwritten notes, which, as they say on the back of this card, is kind of a lost art in today's digital age. But their products are designed for men who are striving to be, straight off the card, strong but kind, confident but humble, bold but thoughtful. And we got into each and every one of those and got into a very deep conversation of what it means to put pen to paper, and it just went from there. It was a very good conversation. I'm excited for you guys to hear it. But first, we have to thank our sponsors, of course, RCR Video Marketing Group, an Atlanta-based, multifaceted video production company creating compelling content to fast forward your business, and Digits in Motion. Digits in Motion is a full-stack digital agency. Rob and his team do incredible work. I know them personally, been working with them for several years now. Hit up their team if you need any website or app developed or anything in that realm. They can help you out for sure. So let's get into this conversation with Graham and Jerry. All right. Well, Graham and Jerry, thank you so much for joining me. I really love just the look, first of all. Like, you guys got the packaging and the look of your product down. Like, when I saw it, I was like, this is my style. It reminds me a lot of the Good Cigar guys. I got my first cigar package, I think it was last week or early this week, and I opened it up. I was like, this feels so good. Just to have kind of this, I don't know, just resonated with me, like the way the packaging felt. And same thing with your packaging, is it feels really good. But if I'm being honest, I highly doubt there's any other group of guys thinking about this as a business idea in America. Like, you guys have got to be the only ones, right? Or is there competition out there for you guys?
It's a good question. As far as a brand that is been tapping into, like, really what we're trying to do is more than just stationery. Mm-hmm. We're a brand that's trying to inspire and equip men to use their words for good. So, but even in the stationery world alone, there's not like a brand that's really going after men. Yeah. Most of the products in the industry are very feminine, have a lot of flowers and stuff like that all over them. And,
which is totally true, because my wife and I will be like in the store and she's like, "Hey, do you like this for my desk?" I'm like, "Sure." Looks great.
Yeah, looks awesome.
No, yeah, right. Exactly.
Next question.
And like, cue predetermined response.
Super cute.
Yeah, super cute.
Yeah, no, it's right.
Let's go back, and tell me where like Press On Paper came from. Like, where did the idea come from? Why was it even a thought in your guys' head?
Sure. Years ago, left University of Georgia when I finished there. Go Dogs, that's right.
Come on, go Dogs.
And so what jumped into my family's business, we started mustard-based barbecue sauce, Melvin's Barbecue in Charleston, South Carolina, and worked with my uncle there for a few years and built the sales division of the business. So kind of grew across the country, sold in a lot of specialty stores, and started writing kind of handwritten letters, handwritten notes to clients at times. But there was not a product that I wanted to buy out there at all. So another friend had asked me to help grow her greeting card business, very girly product, but it looked great. The display was great. And I just kept realizing, like, there's not a product in the industry. So it's either nothing's been branded well and the time's been put to like build the business, or men don't want to buy this. So I start kind of doing research and talking to people. Or men aren't doing it. Yeah. There's not an option for men, or they're not wanting to do it, one of the two. And so I found that it wasn't that men weren't wanting to do it. It was just that, like, I haven't ran into many guys who don't recognize the handwritten letter as a powerful way to communicate and something that they wish they did more of.
Yeah.
But there weren't products in the industry, A, and B, there was just a lacking of inspiration. I mean, there's things all the time that we recognize we need to do or we wish we did, but we don't do it. So why do we not do it, right? So one of our goals is we want to inspire men to do this. We want to help a man realize that our words are powerful and that if used for good, they can be a force in the world. And they have been for like years and years and years.
Yeah.
So, for years, the handwritten letter has shaped nations and cultures and changed groups of people, but also just changed one person, like changed the way someone views themselves. And so if we can make that not a girly thing, because women are doing this already and they do it well. Like they communicate well. It's no secret. Women communicate better than men most of the time.
Totally agree.
And so what can we do to say, hey, like it's time for men to step up to the plate here and try to change the game. And I'm by no means the expert. I just recognize it as something that I wanted to do better. And there were a group of other guys who wanted to do it too. So
you were writing handwritten letters to clients of, you said it was your uncle's company?
Yeah, my uncle's business, my granddad started.
Okay.
And
so were you writing letters like outside of that, like as far as to personal relationships or anything like that, or was it only to the clients of that company?
Great question. I would do it often. I mean, I would do it every now and then. It wasn't something that I do like I do now.
Yeah.
But, if someone, I was kind of trained to write thank you notes. So right after graduation or things like that, if someone gave me a gift, I would write them a thank you note and just show gratitude.
Yeah.
But it wasn't something that I was doing like on a daily or weekly basis. Just I wasn't finding opportunities to use my words for good. That's kind of one of the things that we're trying to inspire guys to do is like look for opportunities to do it. I wasn't doing that for sure. But over the course of probably, 5-6 years ago, I was living in Hawaii. I left UGA for a period of time and moved to Hawaii and worked with the surfing ministry. And there was kind of a culture out there that was created of showing gratitude and using like words to kind of encourage other people. And there was a guy out there that
wait, in Hawaii in general, or like the surfing community?
Yeah, actually, so the organization that I was working with called Surfing the Nations just did a good job of kind of cultivating that kind of culture.
Nice.
And so but it was like, I lived in a room with 9 guys and we shared a kitchen and 1 bathroom. And, but it's actually a ministry that uses the sport of surfing to go to areas of the world and like spread the love of Jesus. And so it's a really cool, super cool humanitarian organization, really. Got to travel to North Korea with them a few years after that. And they just go to really kind of dangerous and different places of the world that people don't go. Yeah. So, but anyway, while I was there was a guy that I learned from, and he like used to write notes all the time. And I just remember seeing it was like one of those things. He was taking that extra step of intentionality. And it was like, I can trust that guy. Yeah. You write something to somebody, like he wrote me something that meant a lot to me. Yeah. I mean, I probably read it 30 times in my life, because like those days when I'm having a shitty day or whatever's happening, I'm like, don't know who I am. And it's like, I can look at the words of guys who have come before me and remind me who you are. And so, I just think those are powerful things. So if we can cultivate that with other men, then I think we win. That's what we want to do to win.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how like, for some reason, writing it just means more. It's like somehow, like even if it's a postcard, because like postcards have always been a thing, and they are still a thing. I mean, when my wife and I travel anywhere, or even her parents travel anywhere, we're always picking up that postcard, writing something, and mailing it back, knowing that it's probably going to get back home after we get back home. But we still go through the process of writing it. There's been several times in my life that I have just, sat down and wrote things out, and even just for myself, or even like writing a to-do list. For some reason, actually putting physical pen to paper seems to carry more weight, quite literally, and also figuratively. Like it just means more. And similar with us, with our video production company, I send clients, thank you notes and all that stuff at the end of every year. And I'm always online looking for like, what's the best, like way I can incorporate our logo and like, but also make it like holiday themed and all this stuff. Meanwhile, I'm looking at this, like, I should just do this. It looks better. It looks like our style more.
You should.
All that. I should do it. Yeah, exactly. Not that, I need them until the end of the year now, but I'll definitely keep you guys in mind. But anyway, I guess to tie all that in, because I know you guys have your furniture company too, oSleeper Manufacturing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that so? Just like there is with furniture, I mean, we hand built most everything that's in our new studio.
I love your spot.
And thank you so much, except for these shelves. These are off Amazon. But all the shelves that are in there, we kind of put the blood, sweat, and tears into.
Yeah.
And even with building something with your own two hands, it just carries, there's more sentiment to it. It's more intimate, but like for some reason, it just means so much more, even though it's just about as much work as building something from IKEA, but still like designing it from scratch. So is there a direct correlation between like your furniture company and Press on Paper as far as like what it actually means to you internally? I know that's a convoluted, loaded question.
Yeah, no,
That's a really good question.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if we go back to what you said about, doing something with your hands.
Yeah.
As I've talked to a lot of men, I know this myself, is like, I think that when I've been in the shop with Jerry, so I didn't know, anything about building furniture. And Jerry, wanted to start and had a background in building furniture and doing cabinetry. And so called me up one day along with some other guys and said, hey, we want to take this thing and actually build a business out of it and kind of turn it in from a hobby. And so I grew up in a house where I played sports and, video games and did everything but use my hands to build stuff. And I kind of always coveted to know how to do that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, to be a man means to be able to build furniture. And I don't know how to build furniture. So what does that make me,
Mm-hmm.
But with Jerry, I've been able to kind of learn how to do that. And it's therapeutic, like super therapeutic to build something with your hands, to imagine it, to dream it and build it. And I think the same way goes with writing. That's probably the only correlation that's strong there, is outside of the team, is it is incredibly therapeutic to write something, to kind of, it gives you a channel to get emotions out. It gives you a channel to communicate, I think, in times whether I'm writing just to myself. I've had, I talked to a friend of mine the other day that was telling me a story of his dad had passed away pretty quickly from pancreatic cancer. And he's like, man, I was bottling this stuff up in me. And then all of a sudden, one day I just said, I'm going to write my dad. Wrote him a 2-page long letter. And it's said ever since then, 2 years ago, he just had peace about it. He got everything he had, bottled up out. And so, I think Flannery O'Connor, maybe I'm misquoting her, but said that, I didn't know who I was until I wrote it. And so it's just kind of a therapeutic and a real thing to be able to actually write something and see what you're writing. And so I don't know if I answered that question.
No, I think that's great. I mean, when I wrote an 8-page letter to myself a couple of years ago, and going into it, I knew that I wanted to write it with the ability to go back a month later and a year later and to reevaluate those thoughts and where they were coming from. And each time I read it back, I'm like, there's different meaning, it's something else gets opened up. But obviously we're going a little bit deeper than probably what a lot of people would put on your cards. But so Jerry, I want to know, so you guys have known each other for quite some time and you went into the furniture business together, right? Did Graham come to you and hey, I got this great idea. We're going to make guys write notes. And were you what are you thinking, Graham? Or what was your initial reaction? I assume it was kind of your idea from the jump, right?
Yeah. But
and you presented it. And how did that go?
Graham and I are both very similar in that we're quick starts, and we both are always hey, I got this idea. What if we did this or this or this? And it's always these random things.
Yeah.
But for me, oSleeper was something that I had been brooding on for years and talked to my wife about and prayed about. And it was something that just kind of for over a long time came to fruition. And when I asked Graham to be a part of oSleeper, we talked a lot about how to make oSleeper something that wasn't just a run-of-the-mill furniture company, that was actually we wanted to be doing excellent design that created relationships with our clients, and then those relationships were extended throughout a long period of times. And so when we talked a lot about that, it was well, why wouldn't we write them notes. And we actually really were just talking about how we need to do much better at that. And it was like, why wouldn't we write notes and thank them for using us and giving us the opportunity to build stuff for them? And I think from that, and kind of Graham's, like he said, his past and Melvin's and all of that, I think he kind of came to me and was like, hey man, I've been thinking a lot about this. Like, if there's not something like this in the market, why wouldn't we be the ones to put it in the market? And so he kind of presented it like that.
And what your initial reaction was, let's do it? Or
I was like, hell yeah, that's a great idea, man. Yeah. It's something where I think we both really want to make an impact. Mm-hmm. I don't want to just get to the end of my life and think, oh, well, there's a lot of zeros there and great. We both really want to do something that has purpose and that we really believe in. And so creating or getting behind something that's all about, saying, hey, men, we need to be men and be good leaders and not really care about being politically correct if we're really pursuing what we believe. And that's really the way that Graham presented that. And I was like, dude, I can get behind that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. You talked about, not being just another run-of-the-mill company, whether it's the furniture or this idea is, I feel like it's easy for, even if you're not a run-of-the-mill furniture company, just the way that things are presented on Facebook and stuff like that, I feel like or Instagram, I feel like it's easy for people to make that judgment, like, oh, here's another handcrafted furniture company, because there's a ton of people out there that are doing it, and they all have the similar look, handcrafted look, and all that. But does it go back to kind of the team and the relationships within the people behind that company? And is that what kind of strives you guys to ignore maybe that judgment a little bit?
For like oSleeper stuff or Press On, or
for both. I mean, because if I'm being honest, it's like if I just look at you guys on Instagram, right?
Sure.
With oSleeper, I could probably find another 10 people in Atlanta that are doing very similar looking stuff.
And potentially better.
But which is another reason why I'm super excited about our podcast, because it allows me the opportunity to dive into you guys as individuals and like what really gets you going, what lights that fire under you when it comes to business and entrepreneurship. And then the Instagram post that looks super similar to the next 9 guys, there's just more to those. And that's where this podcast means something to me, is like, I feel like it's easy for people like you guys, or even like myself being a video production company, to get lost in just the stereotypical run-of-the-mill Instagram post, which in turn makes you seem like the run-of-the-mill company. So all that to say, do you guys even pay attention to any of that? Or is it more like, we're business owners, we're entrepreneurs, and we're doing our thing? Do you pay attention to how you may be seen on social medias?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard not to like. There's no way that I would ever say that like I don't pay attention to what other people like think or say.
Yeah.
I think you can kind of make a decision about how much it affects you. So obviously the thing about Instagram is everybody, for the most part, like you present your best self. It's a highlight reel in a lot of ways. And there's amazing things that happen from that, and social media and connections and relationships that get built. Clients, it's a fun thing, but trying to go a step further, and like, because it can be positive, it can be negative. That's why I know at Press On, Jerry has been helpful, and then we got a team of 6 other guys that bringing this to the table, and like kind of came alongside quickly and said, hey, like I would love to be a part of that. Like this is something I've been wanting to do. I haven't found a product in the industry, or like, hey, I don't really even care what the product looks like. I want my words to mean something. Like when my son becomes 18, I want him to have things that I've written him. Like I want to write my wife. Like my granddad wrote me stuff and I keep it and read it all the time, and it's all I have from him. Like realize that their words were weighty and held weight. So, that's where it was a fun thing, because, kind of like Jerry said about oSleeper, same thing with me at Press On. It was really something I had been brewing on for a couple years, and it was so close to home that it was almost so scary that I didn't want to do it, because there's just a lot of between the name and the story of my life. And there's just a lot of things that were like, man, this feels like closer to like my heart than anything I've ever sold or done. But yeah, I think, can't really get carried away in the, it's just like you and doing podcasts, right? There's a million other podcasts out there. And so it's like, you can't worry about what someone else perceives, but I think authenticity kind of, you can sniff it out pretty quickly. And whether it comes out in a page or whether it comes out in a conversation, you can fake it till you make it really easily. And there's a piece of that that's good, presenting your best self and what you're capable of and saying yes, maybe before you even know how to do every part of the project, but like you figure it out, it's the age we live in. It's awesome. It's a cool thing. But
well, I love your answer because like the reason I was asking that, I was hoping you would say what you said. And it is like, it went back to, you believing in the product so much that it attracted these other people that you want to be around you, to come in and believe in the product as well and help grow it together. And like that goes way further than the likes or worrying about if you look similar to another company or, the comments on your Instagram feed or the messages that you get. I mean, all that means something, right? But what I'm saying is when you present this idea and you have a group of people of 6 or 7 other guys that come around you and like, yeah, this is something that we want to put our talents behind, that means so much. Which is essentially why Ray and I love video productions, because like most of the projects we do, we put so much effort and focus on building the right team for those projects. So that way when we go into it, everyone's there on the same page and almost without even having to talk about being on the same page. Just everyone believes in it so much. I think that's huge. But like you said too, as far as worrying about the comments and all that, I feel like most entrepreneurs are scared to start because of the world we live in, where everyone, I was talking about this on a podcast recently, everyone is like soft these days. So like, you're imploring men to use their words for good, which is great. But I feel like a lot of people in today's culture, everyone is just becoming soft for some reason. Do you guys sense that, or like, what's your take on that?
Yeah, it's a great thing. It's been, it's an interesting topic, especially, right? Because, building furniture and stuff, that's a very manly thing. Right. And so with writing letters, we're kind of hopping into it as a fairly feminine, female dominated industry. And so one of the things we've wanted to do is say, hey, like, what does it look, there's a conversation around toxic masculinity and all these things kind of, what does it look like to be a man? Even this morning and last night, it's funny because I think that so often when we're going through stuff in life, like, it's easy as a man to like kind of pull it in and hold it in and not really talk about it, right? So I'm even like, because of social media and things, I called one of my partners last night. I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to go on this podcast tomorrow, because I feel like I don't want to be not being authentic. Like we're not the biggest company in the world yet. Like and he's like, listen to me, like reminding me like why we started this, what we're doing, like what we've accomplished in such a short period of time, and reminding me to press on, through that kind of stuff. Cause there's always that challenge that you're thinking too much about what other people are going to think, right? But when it comes to this, we were talking this morning about what it looked like for us to encourage and encourage one another. And for me, the word encourage, like I think of like a mom telling her 4-year-old boys, like, hey, encourage one another. But we were kind of diving into what that word looks like and what does it mean to stoke courage into someone. Like as a man, to be an encourager, to encourage someone is to literally like light a fire in them about something that they're gifted in. Yeah. Like that's not a feminine thing. That's a masculine thing. Like to literally put courage into someone. And so if we can do that, like, man, that's a win. And I don't care if someone says, oh, these are encouraging guys, they're so sweet. No, that's not what we're trying to be or look at. We want to put courage in people to chase after their dreams, not let fear get in the way of, like, there's so much cool shit that people could do. Yeah. And fear stops us from doing so many things. So much. So what can we do to be the kind of men that actually put courage into each other to go after our dreams and use our words for good? So, Yeah.
And how much of that goes back to gratitude? Because I feel like one of the main things, everything we've talked about is like, potentially being seen as just another company or someone looking at this idea and being like, guys don't want to write notes. You're crazy. All of this potential negative feedback, how much does you being grateful or showing gratitude help you combat that or even just ignore it? Because I mean, I've been through times where, don't get me wrong, there's times where I'm just pissed and it's like, okay, like my energy's up here, it's super negative. But then there's other times where someone's trying to piss me off and get under my skin, and I'm like, you know what? I have such gratitude for where everyone's at in their positions and what everyone's saying, and let me just take a step back and just express that instead of my anger. So how much does having that gratitude play into both of your companies, really?
Yeah, I mean, gratitude is literally everything. It's so easy to not be grateful for your and to be looking forward. And we've had, I mean, whether it's with clients or whether it's even arguments between the two of us at oSleeper, there's times, I mean, even yesterday, I could have killed this guy for a second. And he sends me a text and he's like, hey, I'm so thankful for you and how much you care about oSleeper. And it's like everything in me just goes down. Like the walls that were up for a second, like they're gone.
That sounds like a good partnership.
Yeah, it's great. And but the thing with gratitude too is, when Press On kind of was really getting started, I was kind of beginning a process of going through recovery from some addiction stuff. And, in the anonymous rooms, they talk about how powerful gratitude is. Yeah. That literally gratitude sends endorphins through your body that are similar to the same endorphins that heroin, pornography, all the things that send through that literally can captivate your body. Gratitude sends those same endorphins. You can literally become addicted to gratitude. Yeah. And it's a crazy thing. That's not something that's really getting talked about a lot, but they're, even, the department head of communication at a university over in North Georgia was telling me the other day how much she talks about gratitude to her classes, because their studies have shown that when you show acts of gratitude, when you write things that are showing gratitude, literally the depression, like they've done brain studies, and the depression rate will go down in your brain when you're showing gratitude, and your happiness level increases. Yeah. That's crazy. Why is that not getting talked about? Yeah. Like, what does it look like for us to be people who trade entitlement for gratitude? Like that's a powerful thing. So
well said.
A CEO of a missions organization in our area too said the same thing. It's like, man, if you could get my kids to trade the entitlement perspective for a perspective of gratitude, talk to the CEO of a major corporation that hates millennials, right? Because they think they're entitled or whatever. I mean, that's a massive thing. How can we be more people that are more grateful? So anyway, I'm glad you brought up the topic of gratitude, because I think it's something that we're truly trying to figure out. How can we best communicate that we want to be a company? We are a company. We want to be a company that is helping people show gratitude, helping them find the good words that can change everything. So,
and the main way for you guys to be able to do that, and I know you know this, is by being grateful.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
I mean, for all of your clients, and for even the challenges, and even the, like how you just talked about him sending you that text after you wanted to kill him yesterday. It's like you're grateful for that moment, even though it was bad at one point. Just you sending that text makes you feel like, okay, we needed that.
Yeah, I mean, I called him later that day, and I said, or he called me, or however it worked. I'm like, hey, thanks for taking a second to send that text. Like, that is leadership.
You should have wrote it on a note though. And mailed it. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I think literally you're where this started from, as far as being grateful for like clients, right, and thank you notes and all that stuff, is like, what I'm hearing is kind of like at the core of your existence, and like your ideas and the way you're approaching both of your businesses and all that are based, when you really go all the way back past the sink, all the way to the well, is the core of your existence is gratitude, which I think is super important. And I think it shines through in this, trying to get men to show gratitude more. And the more you show gratitude, the more it lights that fire under other people and all that.
And that's what we want, and I would hesitate, and I think Graham would say that he would hesitate for us to say that's what we are, because true gratitude you can't have true gratitude unless you have true humility, right? Like, and a lot of times you don't have true humility until you've gone through like trials that have humbled you.
Well, I was gonna say, even on your website, it's like, you want guys to be confident but humble, and like you have these certain sayings that is like, yeah, you can be both. You can be confident but also show humility. A confident doesn't mean a pompous asshole necessarily.
Yeah.
It's a fun thing because we're trying to eventually kind of prop up or bring to light this version of a press-on man that we're going to eventually kind of not create, but try to highlight. And what that looks like is, it's not a pompous asshole. Like, you don't have to just be confident and arrogant. What it looks like, be humble, but not so humble that you're just being run over.
Yeah.
Like, how do you blend those two things? And that's where it was a challenge, because I'm like, hey, bold but thoughtful, confident but humble, strong but kind. Like, being able to show and convey emotions, but not be controlled by them. Like, those are the things that we want. And so we're highlighting characters from history that we feel like have done that and done that well.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, my fear then, fear almost gets in the way of stopping everything. It's like, man, I'm not that guy yet. So like, who am I to be talking about like the press on man as if like, what if people are going to think I'm saying I'm the expert? Like, by no means am I the expert, and neither are. So like, but as I tell this to the guys in the room, we're talking about this, it's like, hey, this is not the man. I'm not saying I am this man, but I'll strive to be this man.
Yeah.
And so it's okay for me to strive to be this man and also call other men to do the same thing, because all it does is create, if I was being a pompous asshole, then by golly, I hope that one of the guys on my team's like, hey, get your stuff straight for a second. Like, you're calling all of us to be this. Like, we need you to be this too. Like, that's what I want. I want dudes that are going to walk alongside and say the same kind of stuff. So anyway, that's kind of a forecasting a little bit of the future, but we do plan to like really kind of bring to light this press on man that kind of, whether this is true or not, I'm kind of trying to blend this thing of like, I think sometimes society or sitcoms can present this male version that's like gets run over and is very like, doesn't have an opinion, just kind of a sissy, for lack of a better word, that my mom wouldn't like. But or there's this other version of male that's like the Donald Trump, like, don't apologize for anything, or like The Rock, like, you're this masculine, strong guy. What does it look like to be both strong and kind? It can happen. Like, people are like that all the time. So,
well, I feel like kindness is one of the biggest forms of strong, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, most of the people that I know that aren't kind, they're very weak-minded. And I think that's what you're talking about. Strength mentally, right, is not necessarily like being this, that's right, the strong physical human, but kind of going back to gratitude, and like, you kind of brought up some things with like recovery process and addiction and stuff like that. And like, it's shocking as the more that I reach out to and talk to local entrepreneurs, the problems that we put under a rock and hide or shove in our closet, like addiction issues and mental issues and stuff like that. Like, us as entrepreneurs, we experience that, I think, way more than just your average person that's going through their 9 to 5 or working their life. Not to belittle that or neglect that person that is doing that, but I'm starting to realize that the entrepreneurs that I've been pouring into over the last year, we all have some sort of thing that is way bigger and deeper than probably any business that we're going to start and all that. And it's figuring that out, figuring out how to overcome that. And if it is like going through some type of recovery program or something like that, you have to do it. If you don't, it's scary, right? It's a very scary thing to know that us as entrepreneurs, it's almost like we're so polarizing, where if we see that we have a problem with addiction or something like that, that we say, okay, that's just me. That's who I am. I'll live with it, whatever. I still have the entrepreneur mind of being able to outwork my addiction.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate, but all that to say, I was reading this article. No, I was listening to this podcast recently, and it talked about habits. And us as people, our bodies don't know good habits and bad habits. Our bodies just know habits. So it takes a lot of mental strength and power to say, okay, well, my bad habit is I eat junk food, and I watch too much TV, which in turn means I don't exercise enough. But your body doesn't know that that's necessarily a bad habit. I mean, it pays the consequences, but like, It's formed. The habit is formed. So you have to make it a point to say, okay, these are bad habits. How do I adjust and change that? And the guy that I was listening to, I forget his name. Sorry to whoever. But
he is grateful.
But he's grateful. But he said, what you have to do is, instead of, putting out little bowls of candy in your house, put all that stuff in the top shelf of your pantry and replace that with fruit. Mm-hmm. Because most people put their fruit in like their crisper or whatever refrigerator compartment and drawer, and then it goes bad a week later and like, oh shit, I wasted money. But yet the candy's within arm's reach. Mm-hmm. Or all the chairs in your house are facing the TV. So your situation and your environment is set up for you to go in, pick up. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Let me.
No, you're good. Man. You're good.
My bad.
Good.
So you go in and you pick up the remote and sit down and turn on the TV, and it's like your whole environment. Hold on. There's paper towels right here. That shit would bother the hell.
Commercial time.
Commercial time. All right.
This podcast sponsored by.
That's staying in the video, by the way.
Yeah. Who makes these? These are great paper towels,
right? Anyway, so he was saying, thanks guys, sorry. He was saying, if your environment is set up to promote essentially your bad habits, well, then your body's going to go into those habits even more. And I think it's similar with gratitude. Like you have to take steps to show gratitude. You have to do that intentionally, because most people don't have it in them for subconsciously and consciously for showing gratitude to be on the forefront of their mind constantly. So it's things like this that exist, and like your guys' mindset that exists, that help men be more grateful, which in turn starts changing habits in many, many ways. Anyway.
No, that's.
Don't know where I was going with that. I lost track after I spilled my water all over Jerry.
I think what Graham said before is really key. Like, what we're not doing here is we're not saying, hey, check us out, we're so good at this, come learn from us. We're saying, like, we're not the gold medalist sprinter saying, hey, come in my workshop and see how I became a gold medalist. We're like normal guys trying to get in shape and saying, hey, come work out with us. We just see that, and Graham really sees that this is really something that we as men, as leaders, can tell and can see through, all kinds of case studies, that handwritten notes really make a difference. So why wouldn't we promote that?
I like that, because it's not always about being the best or even the first.
Yeah.
You guys are like, it's about us all helping each other be the best version of ourselves. And one way to do that is by press on.
Yeah.
And making the press on man.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I mean, I say this and I mean this, if someone comes to me and they're like, man, I really want to start writing more handwritten notes and I really see the value in it, but I don't like your product, or I haven't heard that a lot of times, but I'm sure people have thought it, right?
Yeah.
I don't like your product. It's too high, whatever it is. I'm going to write on that. I mean, if you told me you're writing on more napkins and you're going to use your words and write your wife and your daughter or anybody else, like,
sweet.
I'm like, that's awesome. Yeah. Like, that's a win.
Yeah.
I would rather you use our product and write on it for sure, right?
Yeah.
Like, of course I would, but at the same time, I mean, I want to see the culture change about it. But what you said, man, where you were going, maybe I'll spark it because I'm curious. But before the water spilled, like the stuff as far as habits, addiction, like failing to prepare, having the candy out, like those are the mental things that we're doing. Those are big. That's big stuff. I mean, you're right. If all the chairs are sitting towards the TV, I mean, if all the candy's out, like you're naturally going to do that. So what can we do? What are ways that we can create habits to not allow that to happen? It's like, I forget some of it too. I lost my train of thought, but, we talk about failing to prepare. You talk about taking things one day at a time, like making progress, not perfection. Like when you recognize something in the heat of the moment, you don't realize like, oh, I'm not going to do that thing that's not good for me.
Yeah.
Like in the heat of the moment, I'm like, screw it. I'm going to Taco Bell. I'm starving, I'm going to do whatever I want to do.
It's easy.
Yeah. And whether it's any other bad habit, I got a case of beer in my fridge and all of a sudden it's like, screw it, horrible day. I'm going to drink it all. Well, I'm not going to drink it all if none of it's in my fridge.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, stronger moment, if I make a decision, hey, I'm not going to drink anymore, period, or I'm not going to drink anymore this week. I'll pour everything in the sink.
Yeah.
Like that's an easy way to win that thing, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to look at porn anymore? Put a blocker on your phone.
Yeah.
Like you literally can't do it, or you have to take those extra 3 or 4 or 5 steps. And in that time, like the urges, they drop. Like they're not there as much. And so, anyway, it's just an interesting kind of thing as far as thinking through how to take away those habits. And I think men we're doing better at talking about this kind of stuff, but oftentimes like the stuff that we struggle with, we don't talk about.
Don't talk about it at all.
And so, I'm not someone that doesn't struggle anymore with different things. Like, sure, I still have vices I struggle with, but for whatever reason, there's some guys in my life 4 or 5 years ago that kind of showed me what it was like to be the kind of man who like kind of can put your shit on the table.
Yeah.
And it's like, sorry, mom, for saying shit, but still, the thing is that like we all have it.
Yeah.
So we're either going to act like we don't, or we're going to bottle it up, which does nothing but hurt us and the people that are close to us.
Yeah.
Or we're going to put our shit on the table and we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
And when I had other men in my life willing to do that with me, that's when stuff changed. Like the shame was in the secrets. And when the secrets are no longer there, it's a game changer in life. So
because you quite literally let go.
yeah.
And then how you let go of something, I always kind of do this analogy, but how you let go of something is, you have to open up your grasp and your hands. And the only way to receive love and kindness and all that is to have an open palm. So it's like it's almost one motion. You got to let go of those things, and within letting go, your palms open up to receive, hopefully all things good. But I think a lot of guys, I don't think it's necessarily an embarrassment conversation. Like they want to hold all this stuff in because they're going to be embarrassed. I think it's more or less they're going to come off as not being a strong man.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting conversation with you specifically, because it's like, with Press On, you want to build this like strong man, strong and kind and all that. But at the same time, you're saying, get rid of all the secrets, which I think a lot of guys fear doing that because they will seem less strong.
It shows weakness potentially, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's this machismo that you try to project, and like deep down, there's just normal you, and you just really need to be normal you for people. That's what people tend to like you because of the authenticity behind that.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to be honest. What did you say? Machismo?
Machismo?
I never heard the word either.
I've
You never heard
that.
machismo?
No.
Like,
What the hell is machismo?
Like manliness.
yeah.
Really?
Machismo.
Machismo. I'm
Yeah.
making a T-shirt as soon as we wrap this.
Seems like it should have like
I love it.
the Mexican wrestler guy on there
I
with the
thought it was
mask.
a cheese dip,
That's what I thought. I'm like, God, I just got hungry all of a sudden. Machismo. It's like, it's the dip.
Did I just use that word wrong?
No, you're right. I'm with
you're
you.
right.
Man, I'm questioning myself right now.
Graham and I had no
Okay.
idea.
Yeah, our intellect level. We're just a step below.
I was like trying to follow the rest of your statement. I was like, what did you just say? The whole time I just kept hearing machismo.
No, but it's funny. You have company behind me, Charlie from Good Wipes back there. Shout out to Good Wipes and Charlie because they're both boss. But I was on the phone with him on the way over here earlier, and was just kind of reminding me what we're talking about. No, actually, said to tell you hello. But and it was just like we connect in our weaknesses. That's where we connect with people. And so and you said earlier, like one of the strongest things you can do is be kind.
Yeah.
So why do those things have to be opposite? Why and so it's a hard thing because I do too. Like I want someone to see me and be like, that's a man. Like that's a man's man, right? But I also don't want to be in isolation. I also want to be connected to other people. And I've learned that in being willing to talk about weaknesses or air out stuff that I haven't reached a level that I want to reach yet. Like that's how other guys have been connected. Anytime I've talked about something that I'm struggling with, it's typically always been followed up with like, man, me too. Like C.S. Lewis is a, author from a long time ago, dead guy, and it's one of my guys I love, and he talks about friendships are formed at that moment when one person says to another, me too. And whether that's in climbing Everest together, whether that's in talking about a struggle together, like that's a real thing that happens. And
I love that.
And by the way, thank you so much on air for having us on the podcast.
Oh yeah.
I don't know that I recognized that. I should have said that at the very beginning.
No, for sure.
I was thinking that when you were talking about gratitude, I was like, Okay. Hey, thanks so much.
No, man. No, I think you said it a few times in the Instagram messages. So
Okay, fair.
But I love how these conversations have been going because I realized very early on, we did like 8 episodes or whatever, and I realized that what would carry more weight and more value is diving into the entrepreneurs as individuals, and make the conversations less about their business. Because let's be honest, I mean, you have quite a few more years ahead of you. Let's hope, and you're probably going to create a few more ideas, try a few different things. And each one of these ideas and businesses that you guys start, you're going to learn new things. So that's constantly learning. But I think where a lot of people, myself included, get the most value is diving into you guys and your mindsets as individuals. And in turn, we see how that relates to your business. Just like being grateful as a human, now you have like this idea that is like, a good word changes everything, and all that is kind of sparked out of gratitude. I mean, I don't know. I think it's interesting diving into the individuals, because when we first started, it was more like, how are you marketing your company, and like all these business questions that really anyone can look up online. They can watch a YouTube video, they can read an article, they can hire a marketing agency.
Sure.
But like, what makes you tick is like where I wanted to get. So along the lines of that, what's been your guys' biggest struggle so far, whether it's with Press On or with oSleeper or, handling work-life balance? What's been the biggest struggle as an entrepreneur so far?
You want to take it?
The biggest struggle for me would probably be kind of like you said at the beginning of the show, that entrepreneurs tend to try to white knuckle things and like say, okay, here's a problem. Well, I'm going to deal with it and I'm going to go for it and make it happen and do what I got to do. And I have a wife and 2 kids. And it's so easy to justify in your mind when things are hard, when you have, payroll coming up and you're like scared, how am I going to, what are we going to do? Yeah. And then suddenly you realize that you've been working for 70, 80, 90 hours and you haven't put your kids to bed and you haven't, taken your wife on a date, or I haven't written my wife a note that said, thank you for washing the dishes. Thank you for, washing my clothes that are full of sawdust. And I know that probably is not the greatest thing, it's not fun, but, so probably, I mean, work-life balance, really everything that we are saying we want to be is hard. And there's a pull inside of me to not be that. Yeah. To say, to go home and say, oh yeah, babe, everything's great. Yeah. Things are easy at work. You don't worry. In a few years we'll be millionaires, when in reality there's like shit hitting the fan everywhere and it's hard. And, it's just, I think that's been hard. That's been one of the things that's been really cool about being a part of this is that's like, it's hard to really lie to yourself when you want to tell people how you're doing. Yeah. You can lie. I can lie to Graham, but like, I know what's really going on in me, so. Oh, I know. But when I go to bed at night, like I have to be one mulling over my thoughts and mulling over the truth. So I think for me, the hardest thing is just like, really the work-life balance and just being authentic about where things are hard, where I suck at things and need people to come along and help me, not just white knuckle it.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you? What's been your biggest struggle as an entrepreneur?
Man, I think, trying to do things alone at times, maybe in the beginning stages, that was the case. I think sometimes I struggle with wanting to bring people on like quickly, or I want them to think a certain way. I think as an entrepreneur, it's like a blessing and a curse in a lot of ways, and you're like, sometimes I've been around like friends and it's like, hey, I have this mentality where I want to get stuff done. I want to do something. I want it to like last and make an impact. I don't want to just like have this monotonous road of life, the 9 to 5, blah, blah. But there's also so many good things in that. There's such good things in like just relaxing or thinking through like this or sitting back. I used to be I hated Netflix and anything TV shows wise because I was like the biggest waste of time in the world. Yeah. But now it's like, what a great thing to do, like with friends. You're getting to talk about shows. You're doing this. You're doing a few different things like that. I think the struggle for me now is also like being able to delegate and communicate properly. Now that we've put together a team of 8 of us at Press On.
Yeah.
You know, guys are looking to me for the next step, and there's certain times where I don't know the next step. Yeah. And you have to just make a decision and lead accordingly regardless. And you have to be okay to fail, like willing to fail. And I think it's so, like, no one likes to fail. And I think at times, like, you just small failures are what create success, though. Like, without them, you don't have success. Yeah. And so learning to delegate in a timely manner and learning to probably tackle the hardest thing of the day, the hardest thing on my to-do list, like tackling those first, is something that, I mean, every time I do that, the day is a win. Yeah. The days that I don't do that and I'm like, I'll just do these easy ones first, and I kind of feel good about it. Like, that's the struggle for me. That's the biggest struggle, is not doing those types of things. Yeah. Really doing the things that I know I need to do, and kind of deciding to press on through like the harder things of the day and harder circumstances in life, even when I want to give up or quit.
I love how like using press on means so many different things. It's like I can see it as like literally pressing a pen on paper, but and then also like pressing on to these things. But isn't it funny how like the things that you know you need to do seem to be like the hardest things to just do? I mean, that's kind of how it is with me. Like I know certain things that I should do. Like I should cut out an hour out of every day to go to the gym or run or take my dogs on a walk or whatever. And like those things, certain things like that I know that I need to do are the ones that I usually strike off my list first, of like, okay, I can wait till tomorrow or something like, I don't know. It's interesting that it's so easy to just neglect the things that we say we know that we need to do.
Yeah, it really is, man. It really is an interesting thing. I mean, but that's the case in almost everything, right? There's always this temptation to take the shortcut rather than the long road, the road less traveled, right? It's like, you know, you're hungry. Well, you have fast food that you can go get. It's the worst thing you could get, or you could have slow food, which is go home and cook it, and you actually have something healthy. And the ones that take the quickest amount of time, or they're done fastest, typically like don't benefit us in the long run. Yeah. You know? Totally. And so that's a hard challenge to learn how to do that, you know? And so it's just like, and also keeping up with like mentally staying on top of things, you know? It's like we've talked about, you know, we're going to be coming out with a lot of different other things that kind of fit within the Press On lifestyle, and but also more paper products and pens and inspirational prints from, you know, men that we've seen, and quotes that like I love, or that we as a team love, and but even things like to-do lists and journals and stuff like that. And so if we even talked through yesterday, I'm looking at a to-do list, and one of my mentors comes up to me at a coffee shop, and he's like, sees that I have 25 things on the to-do list. He's like, hey, I'm curious, are you going to get all this done? Yeah. And I'm like, probably not. And like, he's like, do you think it's beneficial? Like, which ones are you going to do first? And we're just kind of talking that process. Like, I like the to-do list because it puts me in that train of thought where I'm writing out everything I need to do. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I feel like a piece of dump if I only got 5 out of 25 things done too. Yeah. So what does it look like to say, hey, like when we come out with products, we're going to be kind of helping put a visual around like having a dump list kind of thing, where you just put everything on the table, but then prioritizing, like, what are the 3 things that really need to get done? Yeah. Like, this is a good day. You finish those things, that's a full day, you know? And then you get these other things, it's like bonuses. Yeah. Everyone loves bonuses, you know? Totally. But you still finish the job too. Because I think we all want to finish the drill. Like, we all want to finish the job. So, those are just kind of got off on a tangent maybe there, but.
No. I like it. It's, it reminds me of like just instant gratification. It's like, I feel like that's a huge issue in our society these days. Like, you talked about going to Taco Bell, and it's like the quick, it's convenience, which has led to instant gratification constantly. And like, I think that's one of the, going back to like habits and all that, that's one of the main things that harms us the most, is like the things that we get instant gratification from now are just overall bad for us, whether it's fast food or whether it's picking up my phone and like escaping for 5 minutes on Facebook and just scrolling, and then next thing you know, 55 minutes have gone by. Yeah. And then it's like, oh crap, I wasted my lunch break. Let me get Taco Bell. You know, this whole idea of, I've been trying to figure out recently, like, how do you avoid falling into the trap of instant gratification all the time?
So
it's all around us.
You know, my little brother, he just ran a half Ironman triathlon, and he trained for a long time.
Yeah.
And he has a friend who was obese and was, you know, exercising like crazy, losing a lot of weight. And he told me this story. We were kind of talking through some of this stuff. He told me that this guy told him, hey, you know what? My goal every day was not to go exercise. My goal every day was just to get up and put my running shoes on. That was my goal. It doesn't matter what happened after that. If I got up and put my running shoes on, I typically would go on a run.
Yeah.
But if I didn't have the goal of getting up and putting my running shoes on, I wasn't going to go on a run. So his goal was just, I'm going to get up, I'm going to put my running shoes on, which is interesting about this because writing handwritten notes is actually pretty hard because it takes a lot of intentionality. So it's like, for me, it's like having a pack of these on my desk that says something that I'm right there, and I have these guys that I'm working with. That's like, oh, you know what? I need to put my running shoes on. Yeah. I'm gonna write one note that says to my brother, hey, thank you so much for just being awesome and encouraging me with that story about your friend. You know, stuff like that I think is really cool.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It's like even just having it goes back to like the whole candy versus fruit in the bowl on the table. It's like if you have something like this on there, it's like, oh yeah, let me write that note to whoever, and so and so. But so funny. So the podcast that I was listening to about changing your habits, he talked about goals, and he said one of the ways to accomplish your goals is to make it like I forget how he worded it, but it was like 2 minutes of intent versus like okay, I need to lose 100 pounds, so I'm going to go to the gym every day and get in shape. So this guy that he was referencing, instead of saying, okay, I need to lose weight and let me start going to the gym and let me look up the best workout routine and the best meal plan and all that, for like the first 3 or 4 weeks of reaching that goal, he said, all right, every day I'm going to drive to the gym, take the 15 minutes, drive to the gym, walk in and walk out. As he didn't work out at all for like the first 4 weeks, but he made the habit of going. And then eventually he started, going and working out, but he got so in the routine of like making the drive there. Even though he wasn't going in to like do the best workout that he looked up and all that. It's very similar to waking up and just putting on your running shoes. At least you're taking that 2 minutes of initiation and that out of that blossoms actually reaching your goals and making them tangible.
For sure.
I think that's an interesting conversation too, is like how to make goals more tangible. And one of the ways is waking up, putting on your running shoes, or at least just driving to the gym, not necessarily working out, like just changing your habits to make your goals more tangible.
Yeah, no, it's such an interesting thing. I was listening to the Lewis Howes podcast recently too, and he had Jay Shetty, former monk guy, who's kind of inspirational kind of guy, talking the same thing. It was like take one step at a time. Say, hey, I'm not going to wake up in the morning and eat healthy and go run and work out and read a book and write a letter like every morning. Just wake up by 8.
Yeah.
And then just get in the habit of the small steps, the one step at a time. And I think when setting goals, right, that we have something to reach for and attain, and making that decision or having accountability that like for me, man, when I was in the beginnings of the anonymous rooms, the phrase press on, just like one step at a time, progress, not perfection, one day at a time, like that was things I held on to. Like when you're in that moment that you want to any sort of instant gratification, like what is it to remember to press on through that? Like you have to know ahead of time. It's just like when you're in a wartime, like that it's going to be tough. Like the decision has been made. Like we're at war. This is not going to be an easy 2 months. We're at war. Like if that decision is made prior to it, it makes it easier to press on. It makes it easier to trade the like short-term instant gratification for what you want to be happening down the road, So, it's just that, but taking things in bite-sized pieces, and then it's like actually doing it.
Yeah.
Like for me, I could talk and conceptualize all day long. Like, I listen to podcasts and I read books, and I know what to do. Doing it is a whole other ballgame sometimes.
Totally different.
Yeah. And, so, having guys that will like call you out or encourage you, and actually put courage inside of you.
Yeah.
Like I think to actually go after your dreams and go after your goals, that's the most helpful thing in the world, I think. And, just thinking through, like, when you can see the end game, like sometimes when I write a letter, it's awesome because like I coach a little league basketball team, and there's a kid on my team that is really struggling with some stuff, and his dad's kind of confided in me, and so I know this kid. I love this kid. I've been coaching him for 3 seasons, and I wrote him a letter this past week. His dad held him out from practice with bad attitude. And I just knew when I wrote this kid a letter, it was going to make him smile. He was going to make his day. And something about it, like for me, that changed the game. Like I knew when I met with this woman last week that she was going to love getting this letter from me. Sure enough, she posts something on Instagram, says thank you, gives us a shout out. And so when I talk to guys sometimes, it's like, I try not to be too salesy about what we're doing. But at the same time, like sometimes I want to. I'm like, you write a letter a day. You find somebody, like find an excuse to write something to somebody. I promise you it'll change your life.
Yeah.
Like it changes your life because it's changing their life. My kid comes up to me in practice, like kind of shy. It's like, he's like, hey coach, thanks, I got your letter, and he's like, you could see he was a little bit like nervous-ish to tell me. He didn't know how to tell me thanks, really. But I could see it, and his dad came up to me and was like, man, thanks so much for doing that.
Yeah.
Man, you think I didn't feel like $1 million? Like, the kid felt like $1 million, but so did I. It's a win-win.
And I promise you, dude, like me as a dad, if I were that dad, like I go to the grave for this man right here who wrote my kid a letter like that. You know what I'm saying? So man, great job, dude. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I love it because it's helping that young kid press on. It's helping his dad press on, and I love how it all goes back to this like press on thing and how like your box says, a good word changes everything, and it really does. Similar to your guys' situation, like he was like, hey, thank you. And that changed the entire dynamic of that argument, of that time, of that situation. And I really believe in what you guys are doing. It's been a great conversation. So anything else you guys want to add before I tell people where to find you, or you tell people where to find you?
No, man, not really. Yeah, just, give it a shot. I think that's the only thing I would say if we're talking about actual press on stuff. But man, if you got any ways to encourage us or any pointers, I'm all ears. Like I said, we're not the experts. I want to hear.
Yeah.
If somebody's doing something and it's working well, then share the love.
Yeah, man. Well, all I would say is stay in touch, because there's another reason why we started this podcast was just kind of build some community and figure out who kind of needs that helping hand or that extra encouragement, or also building a community of mentors that are along similar journeys in their entrepreneur life. And I think everyone that I've talked to so far, we're all kind of at that same spot of like, we're doing good. Like we're doing good enough to be full-time entrepreneurs doing what we really want to do. But it's like getting to that next level, but also not like selling out or not like losing sight of ourselves, or going to that next level without neglecting the kids and the wife as much. It's like, I realized that I was getting so much value out of this podcast just from having real conversations and building relationships. And that's not why I started it at all. I started it because I wanted to network. I wanted to potentially get more leads for our video production company and all that. And then a few episodes in, it's like, wow, this is so valuable for me as an individual.
I love it.
And in turn, that's helping my business in so many different ways. Yeah, it's been really, really cool. So yeah, you guys should start a podcast. No, just kidding.
We've. I mean, it's funny. We'll probably talk to you about. We actually are planning to in the springtime launch a few different things. A print and a press on podcast is actually the plan. Yeah. So yeah, it's a fun thing. I mean, I totally understand what you're saying. It's life giving as heck. Like and you can. We'll definitely stay in touch. You can probably guarantee yourself a handwritten letter and else on point soon.
I will appreciate it. No, I'm definitely gonna pick some stuff up from you guys because I love it. I mean, even like I just keep going back to what you said about just having it on the desk, and it's like, I feel like a good word changes everything can easily come off as like, I should say a good word to somebody to change their life or change their moment in time in that moment. But really where I think it gets super deep and interesting is writing those good words change everything within. And that's where the payoff really is, right? It's like writing that thank you note or that gratitude note or happy, even if it's a happy birthday or whatever, just doing that handwritten with intention and actually thinking about the words that you're putting pen to paper. That changes you. And that's where the payoff really is.
That's awesome. We tell people sometimes, like, you don't have to write a meaningful letter.
Yeah.
That's great. If you can write a meaningful letter, then so be it. More power to you. But the fact that you write a letter is meaningful. Yeah. And it's meaningful for you. It's meaningful for the other person. Like, it's right. Like, it increases your happiness level, guaranteed to increase theirs.
It's so
it's dope. It's like something so small can do so much.
It's like my wife's grandfather. He, ever since they were very little, he's been drawing the same little guy, like hanging on this piece of board. And, it's this drawing that's not like professionally drawn or anything. Like the lines are all jagged and stuff, but it's something that he's always done to say, hey, just hanging around to say happy birthday or just hanging around to say happy anniversary and all that. And it's just this guy, and my wife actually ended up getting it tattooed on her because it meant so much to her. And like when she showed it to him, he like started crying and was like, wow, like he probably never thought that like just doing something so silly, seems so silly, would mean so much to his granddaughter. And it's really cool. And I say that to say that a very simple letter, like you said, writing a letter is meaningful, and it doesn't necessarily have to be this like well-written analogy or metaphor for this meaningful crap. It can just be a letter, simple letter.
Sure.
And that means so much. Anyway, thank you guys for being here. Where can people find you? Let's link it up with your Instagram and whatever you want to tag.
Pressonpaper.com is our website. It's where you can go to purchase stuff. We got, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, Press On Paper at Press On Paper Co. Those are the two things. We're in a few, stores as well. We just launched, back in December, but we're in 4 or 5 stores in the North Georgia-ish area. Awesome. Got some stores in other states that have contacted us about carrying the product too. So it's just a matter of, we're actually finishing up our display that product sits on when it goes and sells into wholesale stores.
Awesome.
And so when those things are kind of, the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, then we'll be in a lot of stores kind of nationwide is the plan. And then launching a subscription service and some things like that here in the spring and summertime that kind of make it easier for, like you said, something on your desk, like a letter writing kit and a desk kit and a father-daughter kit and things like that we can do that just make it easy. And we need convenience, and we need reminders, and we need accountability and inspiration. So that's what we're trying to provide.
Just putting your running shoes on.
Putting your running shoes on. And I know we talked about it, so where can we find oSleeper?
So it's oSleeper Manufacturing. Our website's just oSleeper.com.
Okay.
If you go on Instagram, it's oSleeper_MFG_co.
Okay.
But I'm sure if you just search oSleeper Manufacturing, it'd come up. So
it'll come up. Yeah. And all that will be on the bottom of the video as well. So people will be able to find it easily. Well,
sweet.
Jerry, Graham, thank you guys so much for being here. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Such a blessing, man.
Dude,
Thanks.
Yeah, loved it. Thanks.
Appreciate it.